We're back for another audit. Today we are auditing another top 200 podcast, and this one is called Fingerprints on Success, hosted by Bill Barrett. He is a lawyer and the CEO of Mandelbaum Barrett Attorneys at Law in New Jersey, where I'm from. So I was like, bet, let's do this. I'm so excited to check it out. Of course, I'm going to have Spotify open, YouTube open, and then we'll check on some of the socials later. So we are going to get into it. So the first thing I'm going to do is go into Spotify. We're going to listen to the first minute, maybe together, and we'll check it out. Now, if you have not met me before, my name is Rich Cardona. I am the CEO of a company called Unfilter. We just rebranded from Rich Cardona Media. We specialize in video podcasts for founders. We've had podcasters who have been number one in entrepreneurship. We have many who've been in the top 20 and stay there. And we love to do this. So I do this on my off time anyway, because it helps me get smarter. But I was like, why don't I just bring you along in case you want to learn something, in case you think there's some best practices that you could take away from a certain host or episode. So that's what we do. And then obviously you could take all the things that are not so great. So we're going to check this out together. Definitely check us out anytime you'd like. You could DM me. You could find me on LinkedIn, Rich Cardona, Podcast Rich on Instagram if you have any questions. But let's go ahead and get started. All right, I'm now sharing my screen. Let's get into this. Here we go. First minute is crucial.
Own the marketing piece and be part of the conversation and not order takers. Those are the best and most ideal fit clients for us, because we can really bring some immense value, not just from what we're doing, but we can bring market insights back to them that they can bring to their attorney. So our ideal client kind of presented itself to us through some client acquisition over the last 2 or 3 years, where these have just become our best and easiest clients to work with, and they're seeing the biggest returns on investment.
Okay, 34-ish second intro, or at least, clip from the podcast that's clearly the guest. And what I can tell you is, no context does not help. So it's just kind of when someone presses play on a podcast, it's your job to convey what's about to happen or give a very good preview about what's going to happen. There, I just kind of got someone talking about themselves and their business. I mean, it was quick, which is good. And at the same time, you have to imagine people are not opening up and looking at an episode description. People are opening up your podcast app, their podcast app, or YouTube to get information immediately. And I think just lacking context kind of hurts them. Now that we've covered that, let's go ahead and see this intro music and what the intro sounds like. Let me go ahead and put it on 1. Here we go.
You are listening to Fingerprints on Success,
a
podcast dedicated to highlighting unique imprints left by business leaders, mentors, and successful entrepreneurs. In this show, we'll be bringing on a diverse range of serial entrepreneurs, professionals.
Okay, so look. Okay, I mean we're not even a minute in. So the clip is out of context. That's one thing. A voiceover host. I study these things, and they did not come here for that dude, that voiceover, and for it to be that formal. It's not why people go to podcasts. Now, this is a top-ranked podcast, okay? I have questions about it already, about how that is, after looking at a couple stats earlier, but I would recommend absolutely it should be the host doing it, and it should be quick. I'm not sure how much longer is left, but if I came to you and let you know that I'm going to audit a podcast called Fingerprints on Success, join me for my insights on how to make you a better podcaster, you would click off.
Leaders and coaches to uncover the secrets behind achieving success both professionally and personally. Guiding you on this podcast is none other than Bill Barrett, an award-winning corporate and business law attorney.
No, man. Sorry. It's 1 minute and 3 seconds in. No third personness. Come on, man.
CEO of the law firm Mandelbaum Barrett PC, where he and his team have provided a full array of legal services to both businesses and individuals throughout the country. Get ready and let's get to the show.
Bill, if you're watching this, I want to know why you started this podcast. I want to know if this is a company idea, if this was your idea. I'm not even, for lack of a better term, I'm not shitting on it at all. I definitely want to know, because your goals have a lot to do with this. If you want to stand out in a very specific way as an authority, I think you could do that. But this feels really buttoned up in the wrong way, meaning is it exactly all the veneer that people expect from places like a law firm? And trust me, I've almost worked with many lawyers. I'm just like, I just can't. And there's also people I know who are lawyers who are absolutely fantastic. And the thing that sold me on them the most was how personable they were. And if you could translate that into podcasting and not all the veneer and the polish, I think, wherever you're performing now, I think it can be even better. But that's what I would say right now. All right, I'm going to go back a little bit. So the voiceover is over, and I just started listening to the next little segment, and I had to rewind it because you need to hear this.
Show.
Joe Giovanoli is the founder and CEO of NineSale, a search marketing agency focusing on search engine optimization and pay-per-click marketing for both law firms and the healthcare industry. Before founding NineSale in 2015, Joe worked with professional service firms on team building, business development, and search marketing services.
Okay, so this I know this. I know what's happening right now because I've done it. I have asked people, send me your bio, and then I read their bio on the intro. This is why I always say do your intro at the end of the podcast, immediately after the podcast, because otherwise if you're reading some canned bio, it's super boring. Bill, your audio is also not that great, and I forgot to mention, I think in my notes here, I have my first thought is, dang, this guy's audio is awful. That's your guest, by the way. And Joe definitely should know better because he's a marketing powerhouse, according to this. And I've looked at some of his stuff as well. So you got to screen your guests. Be like, look, this is how I take the podcast. This is how I want you to show up. Or, hey, let someone from my team do a tech check with you to make sure your audio is good, your video is good, etc. So, yeah, I mean, the intro, reading a bio, it's just not going to cut it. And that's okay because you're very early on in your podcast. Okay, so I've listened to the majority of the episode, and this is probably the quickest so far since I've been doing these audits that I'm moving, and I just only have a couple notes, and I want to kind of, I'm not saying I want to spare you. We're going to get into YouTube, and we're going to get into some of the other things, but the biography that took a solid minute. And then I think, Bill, at the very beginning, around minute 234, you ask, so how are you? Podcasters have to do a better job of having a good opening question. And how are you is definitely not one of them. So I would just focus on things like that. I would say, Bill, throughout the episode, your expertise and your stature, it's very palpable. You could tell for sure. And as far as the guest, I mean, like, pretty good. It's pretty conversational overall, but I would say this is pretty dry podcast. I have 15 minutes in here in my notes. Very dry. So another thing for any of you other hosts out there or guests is, the 90-10 rule. The host should talk 10% of the time, the guest 90% of the time. Now, part of that is making sure you could ask good, concise questions and you know the questions to ask. But I feel like a lot of these questions that were asked during the duration of this interview were very obvious. And obvious questions do not do a lot for intrigue, do not do a lot for the imagination, and sometimes they were long-winded as well. So that's my major takeaways from this. I went through the whole thing. The only other thing I could say is they did have an ad 50% into the episode at around minute 28:39. And actually, let's go ahead and listen to that real quick.
Enjoying the show so far? We've received fantastic feedback since we started, and we love your questions. Entrepreneurs face unique challenges, and as a corporate attorney and CEO, Bill understands that. Whether it's your first location, industry regulations, succession plans, or exit strategies for your business, the journey.
Okay, so this goes on for, it's about 1 minute and 5 seconds, which is not awful. It's 50% in, but it's not host read. And I cannot convey enough how important it is for it to be host read in order for it to achieve the marketing goal that you want. In this case, this was a lead magnet for a consultation. Unfortunately, there's no link. There's no link in Spotify. There's Joe's LinkedIn, who's the guest, his website, which is also not the link, a book that he mentions, and that's it. So the link for the consultation is not, it's not there. So for anyone who's listening or watching, when it comes to baking in your own ads or putting in ads for something you really have to think about what you're trying to achieve. Is it awareness? Is it engagement? Or is it for them to do something? So this is kind of asking someone to do something right off the bat. You're a newer podcast and maybe haven't built up the audience that you think. So awareness is the key. Awareness is, this is a worksheet that's going to save you thousands of dollars next time you go to screen a lawyer when you have a small business issue. It's like, okay, like, oh, wow. Okay. It's like, I'm building, these people, you're building awareness on why you can be helpful. Engagement is maybe something like a scorecard or an audit or just anything to kind of get the information. And last but not least would be the ask, but the ask happens fast here. And it's asked by someone who's not the host. They showed up for the host. Okay, people showed up for the host, not for this voiceover guy. Okay, we're about to get into social media and some of the things that are kind of low-hanging fruit, but here's what I have. Great insights from the host. Really good insights. Like clearly, it's clear he has had much success himself. Seasoned entrepreneur, and I put sometimes long-winded, and I already said it, but kind of obvious, very obvious questions. So very, very easy fixes for him as a host. I would say looking at the cover art, I'll go ahead and just look at my shared screen. Cover art is okay. It's kind of bland, but the title's unmistakable on a mobile app for sure. You can't see his face that well, but the colors are okay. Nothing crazy here. And you know what? That's actually okay because cover art is super easy to change out anytime you want. But this for me, is it going to stand out if I'm looking at apps or anything like that? No. But are people scrolling through podcast apps looking for a podcast based off cover art? Not so much either. Okay, so I believe this is a video podcast. Let me confirm. Holy moly. Oh boy. Okay, so before we get there, let's go here. So obviously Spotify's video podcast, you could use that. There's no timestamps here. There is what you will learn in each episode. And I'm sure some of this, this looks very ChatGPT-ish or SEO heavy. Prioritize the listener. Put some clickable timestamps in there, and we already kind of covered the resources. There's a couple resources, but it's not really a resource. These are more like links. So that is all there really is to take away from the Spotify part is use video. There's video, and use some timestamps so the listeners know that you care about them. This is one of the links from the podcast. It's a book, so that's irrelevant. This is the guest's website. So let's check out his LinkedIn really quick. So we got his LinkedIn, we got the YouTube, we got some logos up here, Fingerprints on success. Look, hey, he's prioritizing the podcast. He's saying I got a podcast, good for him. Very good picture here. Why not go ahead and connect? I'm going to send it without a note. I'll do it later and add a note that says I audited your podcast. 1,800 followers, Jersey baby, love it. I am a long-term partner. Okay. I in that. Okay. And let's see what we got here. This looks like a podcast clip. Oh boy. Okay. You could have tagged 9cell there. So LinkedIn doesn't want links here. LinkedIn doesn't want links here in your comments or in your post because that's you trying to take them off, trying to take a listener off LinkedIn, and they're not big fans of that. Back on LinkedIn, so let's see here. Oh, no way, dude.
Part of the conversation and not order takers, those are the best and most ideal fit clients for us because we can really...
Okay, anyone watching, audiograms do not work. They are rarely ever consumed. And this is usually a substitute for subpar video quality. People will do this when it looks like this. This gentleman, Joe, good guy, listen to the whole episode, but you are in a marketing agency. Like, what's going on here with the fake backgrounds and the branded box that you're in? This needs work, in my opinion. If you're going to be on YouTube, this needs work because this ain't it.
And they're going to go to the typical networking and they're going to go do the physical. You're going to grow your name, or they get your
Okay, and this is what I don't like. I'm all over the place right now, and I don't even mean to be critical here, but the microphone discipline here, like AirPods, absolutely not. Definitely not. Tell your guests, do not get a microphone. Do not use AirPods. Do not use a Bluetooth connection because it sounds like ass. And I have videos on that. And Bill here. I'm sorry, it's right, Bill. Yeah, Bill. The microphone is essentially almost pointing away from you. Look at all this space, and no one wants to watch this guy talk while you go like this. Like, no one needs to see the person agreeing. So there's a lot of opportunity to make this significantly better, in my opinion. So let's go back to the LinkedIn post. So yeah, no audiograms, 8 likes. Okay, that's not bad. But look, you're promoting your podcast on LinkedIn. Smart move. Let's go ahead and get out of LinkedIn. A couple more. So, hey, I mean, he's got a pretty decent network. If he's getting 17 likes on it, does it mean anyone watched? Who knows? Okay, let's go ahead and check out YouTube. Oh yeah, I could not find this. I put in this exact thing, fingerprints on success. Okay, nothing. I don't know why that's not showing up. This is Fingerprint Films, but nothing's showing up in that regard. So that was kind of strange to me. So I'm just going to go ahead and click off it. I'm sure it's nothing too crazy. Maybe it needs a certain amount of statistics. On the YouTube side, 13 views 6 days ago. Let's see, key takeaways. Again, no chapters, so people could skip ahead. Ever wondered? This is pretty generic all the way around. So, yeah, do we really need to watch this? Probably not.
We probably threw thousands.
It's very clear. There's no attempt here to make this sexy, but you are on YouTube, and that matters because discoverability is huge on YouTube. So hats off in that regard, for sure. Hats off on that regard. 19 videos, so good. You're at least on YouTube. Thumbnails are happening. They could be a little bit better, in my opinion. But yeah. So I couldn't find fingerprints on success on Instagram, but I did find obviously the firm, and then you could see here. That this is where they'll go ahead and promote the podcast. So the intent is good. I would say the judgment is bad, so to speak. That's a Marine Corps saying, so don't hate me. That's where I come from. That's how we talk. Probably need some better social media work. I just don't think people are going to click on these. The founder or the CEO, you have a much better chance at making content yourself, using your personal brand. And then here we got all these. Let's see, 4, 1, 3, 3. Look, I'm not hating or anything like that. Okay, I'm not hating on this. There's room for opportunity. Facebook. Let's open it up here. Okay. Nothing crazy here. Just really corporate, buttoned up content, and maybe that's what they want. Okay, maybe that's what they want. My concern is that it just will not allow you to stand out. Here is the website. I had to go. Where do you go? Here's podcasts. Rate on Podchaser. That's good. And you got some links. Podcast is embedded here. So here is February 12th. Clearly when it was launched, or at least the trailer was launched. Episode details. Okay, nothing crazy here. So yeah, a lot of the same stuff. Listen for free. Of course it's free. No one has to pay for podcasts. About your host. Okay, nothing crazy there. And let's go to Chartable. So Chartable is essentially where you could see the charts. Are these people ranking? And that's how we found all the podcasts that I'm going to be auditing. So look, this is fantastic right here. I mean, ranking 179 in business, and 52 in entrepreneurship. They're down a little bit, but no big deal. And this is Apple. Now, let's see. So they came out the gate. So the history, at least since the beginning of June or for a month, they were, let's see, 219, peaked at, let's see here, 135. And that was over a holiday weekend. So good for them. This is clearly going to be a stretch where there was no episodes being published. So for you podcasters out there who are not sure if this actually impacts you, if you miss a week or 2 or 3, this is what it can look like. But the fact that it stayed here the whole time is suspect for sure. Like, how did it stay there the whole time if you were not publishing anything? And let's just check to see actually if there was any publishing going on. Let's see here. 25th of June, 28th of May to 25th of June, there's a huge gap. But for it to not sync is interesting to me. That usually means there's maybe third-party help in a certain way to sustain it. And that's just interesting. So I'll just leave it at that. So let's look at rank history for entrepreneurship. This is a little bit more right, but still it should have basically fallen all the way off if it didn't publish anything for weeks. So, and it ranked all the way 60 in entrepreneurship, which is incredible for a podcast that has 19. I mean, some of our clients have hundreds and hundreds of episodes in the top. They're in the top 10, top 25, but this is out basically 19 episodes in. I would say. So this doesn't look right. It doesn't look right. You mean even when you're not publishing, you're staying right here the whole time? And all I could tell you is that in instances where I've seen that, especially there's an influencer out there who said, I have had the #1 podcast for 100 straight days. Yeah, I know the people who help, and those people are designed to bring in and make sure that you stay up there in their very own unique ways. I'm not saying there's anything malicious going on here per se, but this is very strange. And let's go ahead and just take a look. Let's take a look. So let's go to entrepreneurship, and we could see what normal maybe looks like. So let's go to Jen Cohen, Habits and Hustle. Okay, rank history. Okay, this is more like it, right? Like there's clearly times where she's posting, and she's posting regularly without any gaps. So let's go ahead and check out another one. Let's go ahead, playbook with David Meltzer. Okay. Entrepreneurship. Yep. A little bit of weirdness going on. So I think you guys get the point. Let me see if there's anyone I know for sure. The Martell method. Yeah. See what I mean? So I'll just leave it there. Last but not least, we'll look at some reviews. So 85 ratings. So on podcasts, Apple Podcasts, you can leave written ratings. On Spotify, it's just a rating. So they have 5 ratings on Spotify, and they have 85 ratings, which my goal always for people is to have at least half the amount of ratings as you do podcast episodes. If you have like 200 episodes and 20 reviews, that's obviously not a good look. So they're way ahead here. All 5, so 5 out of 5 for the ratings. Only thing that is interesting here is they must have done a huge marketing push or something, because all these are here's February 13th when it launched, essentially. February, 1 review in March 5th. So their last written review at least was March 5th. And 85 ratings. So, I mean, that doesn't necessarily add up. So this is probably just, a push. So I'm done kind of looking at other things on the screen. So what could have happened here, or what might be going on here, is what's called subscriber velocity. It's clear Bill has a network and maybe he's got people out there, but Apple, for very specifically, will rank you based off how many people are subscribing to your podcast. And what that usually means is if people are continuously subscribing, that will shoot you up. If that's not happening and you're still ranking really high, then, it's kind of hard to explain how that could happen. But the good news is there's someone with a podcast. There's someone who looks like they're taking their podcast seriously in this podcast, Fingerprints on Success. There's a lot of opportunity to do things better. And if you're having this much success, whether it's organically or using, marketing agencies or paid to kind of influence the success of the podcast, at least promotionally, then good. The sky is the limit for sure. And you can improve your hosting abilities significantly. You can improve your video quality and your sound significantly. There's a lot of good things. But what I do love absolutely is that these are people who are like, we're going for it. And they're going for it. And it's usually messy in the beginning. And although there's a lot of success here, there's a bit of a mess. And every podcast has their own mess, but so much of this is just fixable. And I'm very happy about that. If you want to check out a totally different podcast that we audited, it's called Hustle Humbly. And it is two real estate agents down in New Orleans. And I mean, they've been at it for 5 years. They're ranking super high, doing super well. It is just a completely different vibe. And it is much more conversational. Now they're two co-hosts, but I just want you to kind of get a contrast, like what real feels like, what it doesn't feel like when things are polished, and what it feels like when people are just like being authentic. Not to say that they weren't, but at the same time, it's dripping with polish, and that's not what we want. So thank you. Let me know if there's any podcasts out there that you would like me to audit. I'll do one single episode of a podcast as long as it's kind of ranked or moving the needle, so to speak. But if you're enjoying these audits, tell me what you agree with, what you don't agree with. And look, if you're a podcaster and these videos are helpful, our free resource library will help you as well. We will put that link down in the description to make sure that you have access to not only just YouTube videos, but documents that you can use and just be like, okay, I'm going to use this checklist. Or if you're thinking about gear, you could check it out there too. So enjoy all that free stuff. We love this. We eat it up. It's what we do. See you next time.